Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 8minutemovement.com, day 14. My name is Rob Gardner. I'm one of the leaders here at the 8minutemovement.com, and we are in the middle of our series called Dare to be Different. And the idea of the series is that as Christians, we separate ourselves from the way the world acts. We find a higher level, a way that we can differentiate ourselves and act in a way that Christ has called us to act, and talk about some of the benefits of living that way. As we live the way that Jesus has asked us to live, and we don't fall into the patterns of this world, we find more fulfillment, more fun, more joy, more happiness. We love life more when we live according to God's principles. And today, the topic that we're going to talk about is Dare to be Different, commitment. Now, 200 years ago, if you were in the United States of America, all 13 of them, I think, at that point, you would essentially be in a position where if you, let's say you bought a purchase of land, okay, you and that person would agree to the cost, you would pay the money, and you would finalize the deal with this, a handshake. That was it. You shook hands, and that was gold. That was, your word was your bond. If you shook hands and agreed to something, that was pure, utter truth. Nowadays, you go and buy a house, there's like a stack of like 90 papers that you have to sign, every single page outlining 4,000 different scenarios and what happens and who owns what. Because commitment has changed in our world. We live in an era now where commitment just doesn't mean what it used to. You look at marriages, over half of marriages now end in a divorce, and I am not being judgmental of people that have been divorced. I'm actually divorced and remarried myself, so I don't mean that as any condemnation on anybody. If you're watching this and you're divorced, I don't mean that, but I'm simply saying that commitment has become more of a challenge and a struggle in our world today than it ever has before. And I certainly think it's a struggle for adults as well as teenagers. It's just easier to quit things, and it's easier to give up on things, and it's easier to not follow through with the words and the commitments we make. But I don't believe that that's God's ultimate plan for our life. Even though the world doesn't take commitment as seriously, I think God wants us to be very serious about commitment. And so we're going to look in James today, and I just want to read a few verses from you that you've probably heard before. It says this: "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves, but do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like a man who looks at his face in the mirror and after looking at himself goes away immediately and forgets what he looks like. But the man who looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom continues to do this, not forgetting what he's heard, but doing it. He will be blessed in what he does. If anyone considers himself religious and yet does not have a tight rein on his tongue, he deceives himself and his religion is worthless." So let's break this down, okay? First of all, when we have a lack of commitment, we lose ourselves. The first example that James gives us here is this person who looks in the mirror at his face but immediately goes away and forgets what he looks like. That's what happens when we have the word but we don't follow through with it. And it's no different when we go and we make a commitment and we say, this is what I'm going to be, this is what I'm going to do. When we say those things and we don't follow through with those things, we begin to lose who we are. Because the commitments we make with good intentions, we make with sincerity, because that originally is what we believed, that's the direction we wanted to go, that's who we thought we were, but we give away ourselves by not continuing with that, by not sticking with that, by not following through with that. And essentially what happens is we start giving pieces of ourselves away, because originally, the reason we originally committed, the reason we originally agreed is because this is who I want to be. And then when it gets hard, when it gets difficult, when we don't want to deal with a particular situation, we just kind of say, you know what, I'm not going to follow through with this commitment. And we eventually take that part of us that was true before, and we just say, you know what, my fear, my worry, my tiredness, my busyness, my struggle, we find excuses and reasons to take that part that was true to us before and just say, yeah, it's not true to me now. And that essentially takes who we are and it waters it down. It is important as we face commitments, and as you go into commitments, it's not just about you make a commitment, you follow through with it, but before you make a commitment, take the time to think through it. Take the time to say, is this something I'm really going to follow through for? And have this internal desire, this, for lack of a word, commitment. Just be dedicated to the value that, you know what, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I say I'm going to finish something, I'm going to finish it. And you will find as you go through life and you follow through with commitments, even when you don't want to, even when things change and you don't look at, you will learn and grow by following those commitments more than you ever would by getting out of them. Secondly, commitment brings blessing. Now, this is the first time we've really used the B word, blessing, in the 8minutemovement.com. And I know there's a wide range of definitions about blessing. Everything from just you're going to be happier and life's going to be good and the sun's going to be brighter to like God's going to make you rich and he's going to bless you and you're going to be prosperous. And you know what? I'm not even in either of those camps today. All I'm saying is I'm looking at blessing as he's going to impact your life in tangible, positive ways. When we follow through with commitments and we honor God by being faithful to our commitments, God honors us. God opens up doors for us. God brings new opportunities to us. God is aware of those things. And this isn't a works-based system where like, oh, you do this, you get this. You do this, you get this. And if you're good and you follow every commitment, then God's going to give you everything. And if you're bad and you don't follow a commitment, then you're going to be failed. It's not this yes or no locked-in principle, but it's this idea that as we're honest and we become people of integrity and we become people who follow through with our commitments, it buys us honor. And honor buys us influence, and influence buys us power, and power changes the world. Proverbs 16:13 says, "Kings take pleasure in honest lips, and they value a man who speaks the truth." When you follow through with your commitments, when you follow through with what you believe and what you say to people, and you live that out, it brings you honor. And leaders, kings in the Old Testament, represent leadership. They represent power. They represent teachers. They represent parents. They represent principals. They represent popular kids. When you are a man or a woman or a boy or a girl who follows through with your commitments, it proves yourself. You become valuable to people. People see that you can be trusted. They see that you're real to who you are. And real is an attractive thing. When you get around somebody that's fake, it annoys you. Be honest. Think about all the people at school or at work that you've gotten annoyed with because they were fake. They were one person over here and another person over here. You can't stand it, right? But real people, people that are genuine and true to their word, you're attracted to them. You enjoy being around them. They're the kind of people you want to work with. And this is where, for us, as we are committed people, as we differentiate ourselves in the world and we stay committed, we become valuable to people. And that opens doors. It opens influence. We get more power, and we get to make a bigger difference in the world. And then lastly, verse 26, it says, "If anyone considers himself religious, does not keep a tight rein on his tongue, he deceives himself, and his religion is worthless." Now, I know that sounds a little bit harsh if you think about it, like, oh, if I say things and I don't follow through with them, then my religion's worthless? Am I going to hell? Is this the end of the world? And I think the point is this. It's not so much this, like, you tell one lie, you're going to hell, or anything like that. It's that as Christians, we're trying to represent Christ. We are trying to be an example of Jesus. We are trying to be that connection to God that people see. Because, you know, the average person goes to school, they go to work, they come home, they don't have an interaction with Jesus. The only Jesus they see is in our lives. And if the Jesus they see in our lives is a Jesus that, you know, hey, I'm going to be there for this time, and then I don't show up. And hey, I'm going to help you with this project, and then I don't do it. And hey, I'm going to get my homework in on time, and then the homework doesn't get done. When we continue to do those things, we kind of show people a Jesus that's not really trustworthy, not really dependent. And I'm not saying that to put the pressure on you to say the only way that people can see Jesus is through you, and if you screw up, then people are going to go to hell, and it's all going to be your fault. But I am saying that if you are the kind of Christian that wants to have an impact on people's lives, you want people to see Jesus inside of you, you want people to see something different in you that they're like, man, I want that. That is only going to come when we are people of commitment and we honor God by following through with the commitments we make. When we do that, our religion is not empty. The Jesus we believe in is not empty. It will have an impact because people will look at us and say, you know what? You're different from other people in the world. You're real to yourself. You're honest about your word. You follow through with your commitments. That's not normal. Something is different about you. And that's where people start to say, hey, man, this Jesus thing, it really does work. It's not just an ideology. It's not just a theology. It's not just a collection of short stories, but man, God really does something in your life when you commit to Him, and then you get to show that commitment by committing to others. My name is Rob Gardner. I'm with the 8minutemovement.com. Thanks for checking us out, and we will see you tomorrow.